Talking about time blocking your big rocks. So there's a teacher standing in front of a class, and the teacher has this jar. It's see-through. It's important that you get a visual of what this looks like. And next to the jar, she has a pile of big rocks, and then she has some smaller rocks, and then some pebbles, and then some sand, and then she has water. And she puts in all of the big rocks all the way to the top. And she asks the class, is it full? And their answer is, yes, it's full. She takes the smaller rocks and drops them into this jar. By the way, Colin and Christy have lots and lots of animals. So if you hear dogs and cats and birds like you can hear right now, part of the show. So she drops in the smaller rocks. I know, yeah, Braden will chime in here too. Drops in some smaller rocks and it fills in the empty spaces. And she says, now is it full? And they respond with, yeah, well, now it's full. And then she takes the pebbles and she puts them into smaller spaces, and she takes the sand and she fills it all the way up to the top. And she asks, okay, now is it full? And they respond with, well, yeah, now it's full. And then she takes a jar of water and she pours it in, and it seeps down into the little crevices between the big rocks, the smaller rocks, the pebbles, the sand. And now is it full? Well, yeah, now it's really full. And here's what I want you to get from this story. If you would have started with the small rocks and then the pebbles, and you filled that thing to the top, would there be room for the big rocks? And the answer is no, there wouldn't be. And if you haven't already figured it out, if you haven't already heard this before, which my guess is you have, but if my version, and I'm talking to you about your schedules. I'm talking to you about your day. And here's what I wrote on page 9 under time block your big rocks. Would we be able to get the same amount in the bucket if we started with the small stuff first and worked our way up to the big rocks? Think of the bucket as your schedule. Think of the bucket as what you do every single day. Now, let me ask the same question again. And the question was, would we be able to get the same amount in the bucket if we started with the small stuff first? Would you be able to get the same amount of stuff into your day, into your schedule, if you started with the small stuff first? And by definition, what is the small stuff and what are the big rocks? Hang in there, we're going to get to that, I promise. However, if you started with the big rocks first and work your way down to the sand, the answer is yes, you would. You need to treat your schedule the same way. Look at it like this. Your big rocks in business are lead generation. I'm going to slow down because I want you to write this down. Your big rocks in business are lead generation, meeting with buyers and sellers. That means you're having buyer consultation appointments, you're having listing appointments. I would include previewing for sell by owners and expires, because that's what sets the stage to create a listing appointment as a big rock. It's writing offers, negotiating contracts. Those are all big rocks. And you need to time block your schedule so that you have time in your schedule. You have the big rocks in the jar first for those things. Otherwise, you're not going to have time for them. Otherwise, interruptions are going to get in the way, and you're going to find yourself in the busy work all day long, and the big rocks aren't going to get taken care of. Now, the 80-20 principle says that 20%, that's Braden, that I'm waiting for grandmom to take care of Braden. Grandmom, we're recording, the whole world is watching this.
I can't hear it, John, so you're good.
Okay. All right. He was just feeling ignored. He hears me talking and I'm not talking to him. He's like, no, that doesn't work. Okay, so the 80-20 rule says that 20% of what you do creates 80% of the results. I think people get mixed up in this. So let me just change the wording, and this is my version. 20% of what you do creates all of the results. 20% of what you do creates all of the results. Because some of you might be okay with, well, if 20% of what I do creates 80% of the results, I'm good with the other 20% of the results. So what I might hear is, I might hear it's okay to get distracted. It's okay to focus on those small rocks, and I'll still get 20% of the results, so I'm okay. No, let's just pause for a moment and say that 20% of what you do creates all of the results. Now, this is also known as Pareto's principle. And if you look at any sales organization, you'll find that 20% of the sales force generates 80% of the income. If you look at a business and you look at the workforce within that business, 20% of the workforce creates 80% of the income. This is a principle. It's not a theory, it's fact. And 20% of what you do creates 80% of the results. So what do I want you to do? I want you to time block your calendar a week at a glance. Now on page 10 in Rainmaker, here's what we talked about that. I would suggest that you use a paper calendar. Some of you are going, what? What's that? Paper calendar? Are we back in the 80s? Yes, we're back in the 80s. I would suggest that you use a paper calendar. Matter of fact, everybody that coaches with me, one of the requirements, I'm going to give you a quick glance and we're going to come back to it, is, I need 3 hands. One of the requirements is they have a calendar that looks something like this. I want to be able to see the entire week at a glance. More importantly, I want them to be able to see it, and it needs to be on paper. I would suggest that you use a paper calendar with a week at a glance. The only thing that goes in your calendar, get ready, is your top 5 money-making activities. Those are the 20% activities we spoke about before: lead generation, going on appointments, taking seller listings, writing offers, and negotiating contracts. And here's a 5th one that I didn't mention: practice and role play your scripts. Those are the 5 things that should go into your work schedule every single week. Those are the big rocks. The only thing that goes in your calendar is your top 5 money-making activities. Time with family goes in your calendar. Faith goes in your calendar. And personal growth plan all go in your calendar. However, business-wise, it's lead generation. It's going on appointments with buyers and sellers. It's taking seller offers. It's writing offers and negotiating contracts. And it's practicing and role-playing your scripts. Use color highlighters and time block for the following activities. Well, I'm not going to mention them because I just mentioned them about a dozen times. Now, what I want your calendar to look like is, I want it to look, all the stuff that's going to fall out. There we go. You don't need to see my golf cart from the weekend. I want you to be able to see the entire week at a glance. Let's just go Monday through Thursday so I can share the screen. You got 3 hours a day up here at the top. Time block for lead generation. Now, until this is done, everything else is a distraction. This is the most important time of the day. This is where you create business. You're going to get tempted to get distracted. Don't. Remember that every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. All right. If I say yes to the distraction, I'm saying no to my business, which means I'm saying no to my family, which means I'm saying no to my goals. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Well, every time you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. So when you say no to that distraction, you're saying yes to your business. Write it down. So I've got 3 hours time blocked every single day for lead generation. Now this carries over to Friday. And then I have these time blocks down here at the bottom, which are 2-hour time blocks every single day of the week. Now, these are for appointments. I'm setting up time that I'm giving myself in order to go on appointments. If my goal is to go on 1 appointment with a buyer or seller every single day, I've got time blocked in order to do that. Now, I'm stagnating this. So on Monday, I'm finishing at 6. On Tuesday, I'm finishing at 4, and so on. We don't live to work, we work to live. I don't want you working 80 hours a week. And pink is personal time. This is playtime. This is family time. This is the first thing that goes in your calendar before your work. I was on a coaching call last week and I was coaching these 5 dynamite women who are part of a team. And we were talking about this and I was sharing that we don't work our family around our business schedule. We don't fill up our calendar with appointments all related to business. And then whatever time is left is family time. No, it's the other way around. Family time goes in there first, and then business time works around family time. Show it to your kids. When Colin and Lacey were little, every single Friday at 1 o'clock, first it was Colin, then it was Lacey. Pick up Colin, go bowling. Pick up Lacey, go to the movies, go fishing. I would show them in my calendar. You guys go in my calendar before anything else does. And if somebody calls me and wants to list $1 million home during this time, my response is, I'm busy. I've got appointments. I'm available Monday. Tuesday would also be okay. But I'm not going to take that time away. My 20% time with my family is just as important, if not more important. Now I want you to take a piece of paper and I want you to write a line down the center, a line across the middle. What you've done is you've just created 4 boxes. And in the top left box, I want you to write urgent and important. In the top right box, I want you to write not urgent and important. In the bottom left box, I want you to write urgent and not important. And in the bottom right box, I want you to write not urgent and not important. Now, most of the time when I'm teaching or coaching, I ask somebody, so where do you think the most important box is? Most people say box 1, urgent and important. And even though you're gonna have to spend time there, it's not the most important box. The most important box, the one you really want to focus on, these are where your big rocks live, is quadrant 2, not urgent, but important. Lead generation, not urgent and critically important. Now, activities that would be quadrant 1, these things that are urgent and important. You get a call from a lender who tells you that the deal that's closing tomorrow is blowing up. And if you don't immediately get involved, it's not going to close. Urgent and important. Now, when you're getting these calls, I want you to ask yourself, is this a quadrant 1 activity? Is it quadrant 2, 3, or 4? Now, if it's urgent and important, I want you to ask yourself, can it wait 3 hours until I'm finished with lead generation? Because if it can, I still want you to put it to the side and stay in lead generation. That time is critically important. The goal, if you want to increase your production, if you want to double your production, is to double the amount of time you spend in quadrant 2. If you can find a way during your business day to stay on this schedule and spend most of your time in quadrant 2, double it from what you're currently working, you're going to double your production. Now, I didn't just tell you to work more hours. It's not what I said. Matter of fact, success is not the result of how many hours you work. Success is the result of how much focus and energy you put into that time. And where you find time to add more time to quadrant 2 is taking it away from quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. Urgent and not important. Those are those things that happen during the day that are urgent. They're immediately calling your attention. 9 out of 10 times, they're not important. Every time your phone rings, 90% of the time, it's urgent. Your phone's ringing. It wants to be answered. And it's probably not a 20% conversation. In other words, is this conversation going to create more business for me? Is this conversation going to create more income for me? Is it a 20% conversation? Or is it an 80% conversation? It's an 80% conversation. One of the questions I'm going to ask myself is, who else could have this conversation for me? How could I leverage this? so that I'm not having these conversations in the future. And quadrant 4, complete time wasters. These are the conversations you get into with friends in the office or online or on the phone during the day. It's Monday, right? A lot of us watched the World Cup yesterday. And even though it's going to be fun to talk about that, it is a quadrant 4 activity. Every minute you spend today talking about the World Cup is a minute you didn't spend in quadrant 2 generating more business. Every time you say yes to that conversation, you're saying no to your goals. Just remember that. I'm not being ridiculous. It's okay to talk about this. However, the way I would handle this is every single hour, I'm blocking periods of time that I'm shutting down work and I'm going to go walk. I'm going to walk the office. I'm going to walk my house. I'm going to call a friend. Have these conversations then. All right, take yourself off mute. Talk to me. Raise your hand. Tell me what you heard. Paige, my rock star. You're on mute, girl. Paige, you're still on mute.
Okay, so I've heard you talk about these 4 quadrants so many times, and I don't know if I newly registered it or you said it different, but what struck me today is how quadrant 2 is actually kind of like I don't know what word to use, like deceptive. It can fool you into thinking you can push it to the side when that quadrant 2 is really our top priority, not quadrant 1.
You know, the teacher shows up when the student is ready. And Paige, you're a different person today than you were a year ago. You're definitely a different person than you were 2 years ago. I've been talking about this forever. Even before I got into real estate, I've been talking about this. The 4 quadrant conversation comes from Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Successful People. You know, I read that book back in '96. So yes, I've been talking about this forever, but you heard it differently because you're in a different place. You're right. It is easy to put those things off. That's why it's called not urgent. It's not urgent, but it's important. And this shows up in every area of your life, guys. Exercise, not urgent. I don't need to exercise. I'm going to take today off and I'll double up tomorrow. No, you won't. It's not urgent, but it's important. I'll tell you when it becomes urgent. When you go to the doctor and the doctor says, if you don't do this, something bad is going to happen. Now, exercise is urgent.
Mhm.
You got it, girl. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
John in the chat, yes, all of my Rainmaker calls that we have in the morning and Survive to Thrive before this, there's 3 years of these calls on my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search John Dietz. You'll find some pretty weird John Dietz's out there. It's not me. And I know someone here probably has the link saved. They can save it in the chat. That would be great. Shoshana, talk to me.
And good morning.
Good morning.
You've been talking about this for a very long time, and I think the first thing you have to have down packed is your schedule. That way that you are consistent. And you've been saying this you say this every single day, and it didn't really hit until today, especially for someone who struggles with that. So once you have that, the other parts you're able to fill in the other parts. You have to be consistent with your schedule. You have to lead generate there's no way around it. Trust me, I've tried. This is the way.
Write it down, write it down, write it down. It's truth. Drop the mic, Shoshana, 100%. for those of you who have been with me for the last 2.5 years, how did we end every call almost every day? Time to get to work. What is work? And everything that I share in what is work lives where? It lives in quadrant 2. Rosario, talk to me.
Good morning, John.
Hey, girl.
So it's so beautiful to see you here and hear what you're teaching us today. We have heard it before, but
Mhm,
it's good to hear it again.
mhm.
It's amazing. This weekend, I got my journal, and it's just exactly how yours. This one. I really like something that you said in each day to make your schedule, and when you go in the park for your family,
Yeah, yeah,
don't make your things work before your family.
no,
That your work goes around, that your family comes first.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's good to have in your schedule, because if it's in your schedule, it will happen.
There you go.
And I'm so happy to hear what I hear today. I thank you so much,
There you go.
John, because you prepare us for success in every aspect in our life.
It's
And
life.
if we don't take
first.
care priority,
Yeah,
things will fall apart. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, Rosario, I appreciate that. I really do. And I want everybody to hear something, and we're going to close. If I'm sharing something with you, I'm giving you life advice. It's not because I figured this out and I was an amazing father and amazing husband. For the most part, I wasn't. What I'm doing is I'm teaching you based on the mistakes that I made. Do it better than me. Don't make the mistakes that I did. Now, I did a few things right. Okay, so what? Now what? I want you to live your best life. And think about this for those of you who have kids. I'm going to leave you with some guilt. When your children ask you if you can spend time with them and you tell them, not now, daddy's busy now, mommy's busy now, can we do that later? What are they hearing? What are they hearing? They're hearing work is more important than me, is what they're hearing. Now, here's a solution to that. Pull out your calendar and show them, sweetie, this is the time that I've got scheduled for you all day Friday. It's all yours. Matter of fact, every single night, I've got family time written down here. I've got time with, put their names in here so they can see their names. Time with Susie, time with Becky, time with Shoshana, time with Rosario. And let them see that they're the first thing that goes in your calendar. So if they come up to you during that work time, all you need to do is say, sweetie, I've got you in my schedule. Matter of fact, you go in there first. And I have to finish with this, and then you've got my undivided attention. Okay. Something I learned from Brian Buffini, and oh my goodness, Brian's wife's name is slipping me right now. They had like a dozen kids. And anytime the kids came up to them and wanted to talk to them, they would put their hands on their face, pull them in close, and what they were doing is they were creating blinders, and they were simply saying, you've got my undivided full attention. Talk to me. You'll be glad you did. All right, everybody. Make it a great day. Time to get to work. For those of you who are winding down and checking out, awesome. Good for you. Never truly off, never truly on. And before you check out for the holidays, make sure you have a plan for starting 2023 with amazing momentum. I'm going to say this every day between now and January 1st. January 1st is one of the biggest expired phone call days of the year. Start planning a expired call day if that's how you lead generate for business. and get on that phone early January 1st. Good morning, Happy New Year. Sorry if I called too early. I noticed your home came off the market. Are you still interested in selling? All right, everybody, make it a great day. I will see everybody tomorrow morning, 8:30.
Have a good day, John.
You have a great day, Clarissa. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Well, Anita, it's so good to see your name on my screen.
Oh my God, it's so good to see your face and hear your voice. You have no idea. I miss you. I miss being in the office with everybody every morning.
Yeah,
And I'm grateful for you.
yeah.
Trust me.
Thank you for that. Means
It's the baby for me. Have an awesome day.
I will. All right, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
And I'll see you tomorrow.